After the Civil War, the people wanted a leader that wasn't a typical politician. Ulysses S. Grant, a successful war figure, became the perfect candidate to lead the era after the Civil War. However, Grant's administration was filled with corruption and scandals, and the fact that he was an inexperienced politician led to people taking advantage of him. Jim Fisk and Jay Gould started a gold scheme in 1869. They successfully persuaded the government to stop selling gold, then predicted that the price of gold would rise. When the Treasury began reselling gold, it led to over-speculation and inflation of gold. The Tweed Ring, led by William Marcy Tweed, or Boss Tweed, was the leader of the political machine in New York City. The ring took place in Tammany Hall and took bribes and corrupted the elections at a local level. The Credit Mobilier Company and the Union Pacific Railway began building the eastern part of the first transcontinental railroad and paid themselves 348% more than normal stockholders. It was later found out that 2 members of the government and the vice president were part of the scandal. This made Grant's reputation as a president even worse. When the whiskey ring was exposed in 1875 of stealing missions and tax revenues, it was also revealed that a member of Grant's administration was a part of this ring. That Grant was even. The elections during the Gilded Age were a game of parties. Each party would choose candidates who are the least controversial to achieve more votes. This led to the era of forgettable presidents. Politics became a business with money being the main factor to a successful politician. The race between Republicans and Democrats brought the high percentage of voter turnouts during this time. As shown, every state already had a decided party with a few exceptions, and the voting race between the Republicans and Democrats was evident. The voter turnouts during the Gilded Age are shown in this graph. The Gilded Age had the highest voter turnouts due to factors such as excessive campaigning and the strong sense of loyalty. At this time, winning parties still used the spoils system to gain and keep supporters. Supporters of the Democrats included white Southerners who wanted preservation of white supremacy, Catholics, immigrants, the working class, and farmers. Since the Republicans were supported by wealthy business owners and fairly well-off people, the Democrats were supported by the opposite. Also, it was the Democratic Party that supported the Southern cause of the Civil War, therefore achieving more support from the South. On the other hand, Republicans were supported by white Northerners, African Americans, Protestants, and the middle class. Republicans had support from African Americans due to the fact that Lincoln and other advocates for emancipation were of the Republican Party. Republicans were mostly based in the Northeast with wealthy bankers and factory owners. Stalwarts were the Republicans and loyal followers led by Roscoe Conkling of Ulysses S. Grant that supported his running for a 3rd term. Stalwarts also supported political machines and the spoils system. They opposed the half-breeds and the Pendleton Act. The half-breeds, led by James G. Blaine, were against the Stalwarts and advocated for a merit system and civil service reform. The name half-breeds was given by the Stalwarts as they believed that half-breeds were only half Republican. Mugwumps were the Republicans who went against their own party to support the Democratic candidate Grover Cleveland, to show their discontent with the Republican candidate James G. Blaine, as they believed he was a corrupt politician. With these factions, it showed how corrupt politics during this era was, that factions were created within a single party, and one faction had to even support the opposite party to send a message. When Ulysses S. Grant was being considered to run again for a 3rd term, the House passed a resolution to limit him to a 2-term presidency, and so the Republicans nominated Rutherford B. Hayes instead, and the Democrats nominated Samuel Tilden. Tilden received majority of the popular votes and yet lost to Hayes. It turned out that Tilden lost due to election fraud in South Carolina, Florida, and Louisiana. To keep the Republican presidency, the 2 parties compromised with the Compromise of 1877. The compromise was that Hayes would be the president and the government troops stationed in South Carolina and Louisiana, which were the last 2 to have troops stationed after the Civil War, would leave. The election of 1884 brought the first Democratic president in 28 years, Grover Cleveland. He was also the only president who left a mark during the era of forgettable presidents. The 1888 elections were extremely business-based, as the main argument of the parties was on tariffs, and there was a definite split between the 2 parties, as the Democrats, supported by the South, wanted less tariffs, while the Republicans, supported by the Northeast, advocated for stronger tariffs. Harrison, the Republican candidate, won the election with more electoral votes but less popular votes. The Pendleton Act was created to get rid of the spoils system. It made it so that every candidate for a government job would have to take a test to see how qualified they are. This made the strict loyalty one had for its party not as important or needy. Now politicians had to actually start campaigning again in order to gain support. During Grover Cleveland's presidency, the government went back to a laissez-faire structure. One of the big responsibilities of the officials at this time was the military pensions. Cleveland went on to veto hundreds of pension requests. The tariffs became a major issue during this time due to the excess surplus of money the Treasury had from these tariffs. The Treasury had a surplus of $145 million by the end of 1881. The farmers and foreign trade were hurt by the tariffs since 75 to 80% of them were agricultural. Cleveland wanted to lower tariffs hoping that it would lower the price for consumers. However, Republicans were very positive toward tariffs, as they were very business-based. Tariffs were the base and most important debate for the 1888 presidential elections. Under Harrison, the Sherman Antitrust Act and Sherman Silver Purchase Act were passed. The McKinley Tariff Bill was the gift that Republicans placed in response to supporters who supported them through the Sherman Silver Purchase Act. They raised the percentage of tariffs to 48%, reduced taxes on tobacco, and increased the pensions for veterans. They also raised taxes on agricultural products, and 78 congressmen, including McKinley, lost their next elections, and tariffs were replaced by the silver issue in the 1890s. As the farmers began going into deep debt and political disadvantage, they began to join politics. The most famous attempt was through the Populist Party. With the Populist Party, the desire for silver money grew as it was a way for farmers to escape debt. And also, the issue of currency replaced the issue of tariffs since Republicans preferred to keep the original gold currency, while Democrats wanted to add silver currency. The lower class at this time, farmers, were willing to create inflation due to overcirculation of silver, which would then ruin the nation's credit. Grover Cleveland lost his support rather quickly due to his political activities. He was not only the only president to serve non-consecutive terms, but the population blamed him for the 1893 panic. He defended the gold standard, which lost his support from the South. He also went on to repeal the Sherman Silver Purchase Act. He also used federal troops to stop the Pullman strike, which was seen as a strike against labor. In 1998, it was revealed that President Bill Clinton had a sexual relationship with the White House intern Monica Lewinsky. This affair led to the impeachment of President Clinton throughout a 21-day Senate trial. Clinton first denied all claims, then later confessed his infidelity. He also gave a false testimony at first when asked about his relationship with Lewinsky. He was charged with obstruction of justice and perjury. During Reagan's presidency, he allowed the government to trade U.S. weapons for 6 U.S. hostages from Iraq. The issue with this was that Reagan did this secretly without any legal authority. Soon afterwards, it was found out that Reagan, who was indecisive about whether he should inform the public or not, had his administration destroy all evidence about the affair. For Nixon's run for re-election, the men hired by his team broke into Democratic headquarters at Watergate to find information that could possibly help the Republicans. However, when Nixon, who was unaware of the operation, found out about it, kept quiet and tried to kill the investigation. If he were to turn in the men, he would have had to resign. However, later on, he did resign from office. The strength of the Democratic Party in the Gilded Age lay with A. White Southerners and northern urbanities. B. The educated and the affluent. C. Western farmers and cattlemen. D. Opponents to tariff and civil service reform. The answer is A. White Southerners and northern urbanities. One theme of the Gilded Age politics was the A. Triumph of urban industrial interests. B. Rise of the common man. C. Extension of government into the private sphere. D. Triumph of rural agricultural interests. The answer is A. Triumph of urban industrial interests. Mark Twain called the era following the Civil War the Gilded Age because A. It was an age of universal benefit for all Americans. B. Of the tremendous number of gold strikes that took place. C. The glitter and flashiness of the time seemed to mask the ugliness and mass materialism that lay beneath the surface. Or D. The gold and silver issues never seemed to dominate the era. The answer is C. The glitter and flashiness of the time seemed to mask the ugliness and crass materialism that lay beneath the surface. Which of the following was not a factor in shaping Gilded Age politics? A. Politics was seen more as a way to get office rather than a way to press certain issues. B. Business remained separate from politics. C. In nation politics, neither party could keep both a majority in Congress and a president in the White House. Or D. None of the presidents in this period could be described as a strong leader. The answer is B. Business remained separate from politics. The purpose of the Pendleton Act of 1883 was to A. Fill some government jobs on the basis of competitive exams. B. Establish the first racial quotas for government jobs. C. Ensure that appointments to government jobs were approved by Congress. Or D. Declare illegal the system of city political machines and boss rule. The answer is A. Fill some government jobs on the basis of competitive exams. Scholars considered the 1896 election critical because A. It showed that the American people will reject radicalism. B. It brought progressive politicians into power. C. It discredited the Free Silver Crusade. D. It initiated a realignment in the power of the two main political parties. The answer is D. It initiated a realignment in the power of the two main political parties. Politicians of the Gilded Age used the spoils system to A. Dispense government jobs for political purposes. B. Elect all federal government officials. C. Fill government jobs based on merit rather than patronage. D. Remove incompetent politicians from office. The answer is A. Dispense government jobs for political purposes.